Hong Kong today is known to operate under the one country, two systems framework, which simply means that Hong Kong would continue its system where it maintains its own legal and economic policies. That is why in Hong Kong you still get to see its laissez-faire economic model in action, which is the exact opposite of China, where the government plays a dominant role in the economy. But this economic model that Hong Kong possesses is much more than just the exact opposite of China. Hong Kong is well known to be the world's freest economy. How can we say so? Well, here's a ranking on the most free economy according to the Fraser Institute. Here, you can see that no other economy tops the list except for Hong Kong. Hong Kong far surpasses Singapore, Switzerland, the United States, and basically every single economy out there. But what does this exactly mean? What does it mean to be a free economy? And why is it the exact opposite of China? That's what we are going to talk about in today's video. Let's first understand what it means to be free. For an economy to be free, it means there must be minimal government intervention in business activities. What that simply means is that there must be low taxes, open trade policies, strong property rights, and minimal regulations on businesses. A free economy allows individuals and companies to operate with little restriction, encouraging innovation, competition, and economic growth. And what's interesting about being a free economy is that it has been argued to work and make economies rich. If we were to graph out the rankings earlier again on the most free economies, we get to see that all of the top economies on the list are wealthy. There is no economy on this top 10 list that is still classified as developing status. All of these are developed economies. On the contrary, if we graph out the least free economies, we see a very different picture. Here, you can see that the least free economies according to this data are Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Sudan, and so on. Most of these economies are the exact opposite of being free. They basically have strict government control over industries, high levels of regulation, heavy taxation, and weak property rights. And hence, as you can see, the economic output of these economies are reflected in their GDP per capita. Venezuela, for instance, which ranks at the very bottom of the list, has seen its GDP per capita plummet over the years due to extreme government intervention, hyperinflation, and economic mismanagement. Once one of the richest countries in Latin America due to its vast oil reserves, Venezuela has suffered economic collapse because of policies that restricted private enterprise, nationalized key industries, and imposed strict price controls. So, how did Hong Kong become a free economy? Well, Hong Kong's economic model can be traced way back to Sir John Cowperthwaite, who served as the financial secretary from 1961 to 1971. Sir John Cowperthwaite was educated in the classics and later economics. Cowperthwaite firmly believed in free market principles and limited government involvement. He famously rejected the need for macroeconomic statistics like GDP, arguing that they often led to unnecessary intervention by policymakers. Instead, he trusted in the invisible hand of the market to allocate resources efficiently. Cowperthwaite's policies were not about neglecting governance entirely, but about creating an environment where private enterprise could thrive without the burdens of heavy taxation, excessive regulation, or protectionist measures. His approach, often described as positive non-interventionism, became a model for what many economists, including Milton Friedman, admired as a practical demonstration of laissez-faire capitalism. Friedman once remarked that Hong Kong was the free market in action, a view that resonated through his famous television series Free to Choose. Under Cowperthwaite's stewardship, Hong Kong's economic performance was nothing short of extraordinary. Between 1961 and 1997, Hong Kong's gross domestic product, GDP, increased by a factor of 180, while its per capita GDP increased 87-fold. For context, in 1960, Hong Kong's per capita income was only about 28% of that in Great Britain. By 1996, it had risen to 137% of Britain's, reflecting not only rapid growth, but also the success of its free market policies. The absence of capital gains tax, minimal import duties, and a flat income tax rate, around 15%, have long been key pillars of this growth. Such low taxation policies attract both domestic entrepreneurs and foreign investors, creating an open and competitive market environment. These policies, combined with minimal regulation, help to create one of the freest economic systems in the world, evidenced by Hong Kong consistently topping economic freedom indexes. To show you just how all of these played out with data, let's graph out the total tax revenue as a percentage of GDP of Hong Kong and compare it to various economies. What this data tells us is how much of a country's economic output is collected by the government through taxes. Generally, economies with lower tax burdens tend to encourage business growth, investment, and entrepreneurship, as individuals and companies can retain more of their income. Here, you can see that Hong Kong's total tax revenue sits at around 14%. And if you compare this data to the OECD average, you can see that it is more than double than that of Hong Kong. It basically shows how low taxes are in Hong Kong as compared to any other economy out there. It is only Singapore that matches Hong Kong for thriving in this low-tax economic model. But it is important to know that there are a lot of economies out there that have high taxes, yet are wealthy. This is because low taxes don't always equate to economic success. Another indicator that can tell us just how free Hong Kong's economy is can be traced to the size of the government. The size of one's government is a crucial indicator because it reflects the extent of state intervention in economic affairs. A large government typically means higher public spending, more state-owned enterprises, and increased regulatory control over businesses. Here's a graph on the government spending as a share of GDP. Here you can see that Hong Kong has seen very low government spending historically. It was only in recent years that Hong Kong had seen an increase in government spending, partly because of the COVID-19 pandemic, which pushed spending to record levels. Had COVID not occurred, Hong Kong's spending could have stayed at this rate of 15 to 17%, which is half compared to most economies. Now, we also have to talk about why this is the exact opposite to China. The reason why we say this is the case is because China operates under a heavily state-controlled economic model, where the government plays a dominant role in shaping industries, regulating markets, and directing capital. One of the biggest contrasts between Hong Kong and China is the role of the private sector, specifically in the banking sector. If we graph out the largest banks of Hong Kong and compare them to China, we get to see that in China, all of the major banks are owned by the state, which is why they are classified as state-owned enterprises. The Chinese government basically owns them. Hong Kong's largest banks, on the other hand, aren't owned by the Hong Kong government. Instead, it is owned by private corporations. Hang Seng Bank, for instance, is owned by HSBC. Secondly, a significant contrast from Hong Kong to China is their role as global financial hubs. Indeed, China is known to have big financial hubs like Shanghai. But Hong Kong may stand out amongst other financial hubs in China. Why? One can see this in initial public offerings. Hong Kong is well known to host some of the world's largest IPOs, consistently ranking among the top global destinations for companies looking to go public. Here's a list of the largest IPOs done recently in Hong Kong. Here, you can see that the proceeds, which is basically the total capital raised, are among the highest in the world. It is also well known that Hong Kong has seen companies like Alibaba, JD.com, and Meituan have all chosen to list or conduct secondary listings in Hong Kong. That is because of its reputation for fair market practices, which makes it the preferred choice for businesses looking to go public. Unlike Shanghai, where market access is restricted and heavily influenced by government policy, Hong Kong allows companies to access international capital without strict currency controls or regulatory uncertainty. Now, before we end the video, we must also talk about whether this is good or bad. One of the biggest drawbacks for Hong Kong's laissez-faire economic model is that while it has helped the city grow into a global financial hub, it has also led to significant inequality. With low taxes and minimal government intervention, there is little in the way of social safety nets compared to other developed economies. Housing affordability, for example, is a major issue. Hong Kong consistently ranks as one of the most expensive cities in the world to buy or rent property. With limited land and high demand, real estate prices have skyrocketed, making it difficult for ordinary citizens to afford housing. Unlike other developed economies with government-subsidized housing programs, Hong Kong's free market approach has led to extreme wealth concentration, where a small group of property tycoons control much of the real estate market. So, as you can see, it is a double-edged sword. But anyway, do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.